Hey everybody, this is John for Pioneer Nexus MTG coming at you with the top 5 decks in the Pioneer format right now. Now this list is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do, as it's kind of unclear what the top echelon is really beyond Rakdos and Mono Green right now, as the format did get shaken up a bit during the Pro Tour, and people are still trying out some of the tech that came out of that, as well as a few decks that have popped up now and again from Phyrexia All Will Be One, such as decks we've covered on the channel, such as Boros Hammer and Neoform Combo, though those decks really don't seem to have quite the staying power right now. They still could potentially shake up the format in time. The first deck that did shake up the format a little bit is a deck that has existed for some amount of time and actually won the Pro Tour in the hands of Reed Duke, and that is Indomitable Creativity Combo. Creativity Combo, this is not the Torrential Gearhulk Magma Opus version. Instead, this tries to put Xenagos God of Revels and Worldspine Worm into play. So for creativity, X equals 2, and hit your opponent with a 30-30 hasty trample guy and kill you in one shot. And beyond that is just kind of a Izzet control deck. So, you know, a deck much built in the ilk of something like Arbalite Phoenix, or some of the other Izzet decks that have existed, some of the control decks and such. You have kind of a control angle and a combo angle. Both can be quite threatening. And then when one isn't good enough, you can bring in Hullbreaker Horrors and Shark Typhoons and just become a pure Izzet control deck. Beyond that, you know, remains to be seen where this deck will shake out. Much like Green White Angels, this is a deck that has existed on the radar for some amount of time. Took really a good breakout weekend or two for this deck to finally show up in big numbers. Now people are thoroughly exploring the deck along with the CFB team that put it on the map again, but remains to be seen whether this will be a consistent performer or if this will fade in the background. Not to say that it won't be a powerful deck in the Pioneer format, but when you have arguably a fleet of 7 to 10 decks that can easily compete for the top 5, you know, decks that you're not going to see on this list, things like Mono White Humans, Izzet Phoenix, Green White Angels, Blue White Control, etc. You know, it's really hard to set yourself aside if you're not Rakdos or Mono Green. Another deck making some waves that will once again remain to be seen how powerful it is. Bring to Omnath. Not Bring to Niv, Bring to Light Niv, Bring to Light Omnath was a deck that showed up at the Pro Tour and did reasonably well for the few pilots that pilot. So this is more of a Bring to Light Omnath deck than the 5-color Niv deck was. You get to play a little bit better of a mana, you get to play a little bit better of a removal spell with things like Chain of the Rocks. You're not really locked in on all these mono-colored or these bicolored gold cards. Instead, you can actually play the good cards, things like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Leyline Binding, Chain of the Rocks. You still get to play the most powerful part of 5-color Niv, that being the Sylvan Caryatid, as well as the Bring to Light. And then you get a package along with that. You know, you get to bring Tibalt Cosmic Imposter, you get to have the Deadly Vanity part of Selfless Glyphweaver, you get to play Extinction Event, and a new addition to the deck, Elish Norn, helps to shut down annoying decks like Angels, etc. Escape to the Wilds as a little bit of card advantage, and then Slaughter Games to shut down combo, and potentially Mono Green if you can fire this off on turn 3, taking their cards. And then, obviously, you get to play Leyline Binding as a powerful removal spell. Sideboard, another mix of powerful things. You're not beholden to play all the gold cards. Instead, you get to kind of play whatever powerful 3, 4, and 5 mana creature instants and sorceries you want to play. And you're just really kind of a 5-color good stuff deck, really backed up by the power of Omnath with Fabled Passage. So, remains to be seen how powerful this deck is. I've certainly done some messing around with Omnath shells in the Explorer format. There was a Elementals deck I've messed with every now and again. That deck feels like it's really close to being competitive, but one of the most powerful parts of it is Omnath plus Fable. So, remains to be seen how powerful this deck is, whether it can compete with the likes of Mono Green. It can certainly hang with a deck like Rakdos and certainly has the tools to help deal with things like aggressive decks, but whether it can hang with Mono Green will kind of be one of the determining factors of how powerful this deck is growing long term. Now for our actual top 3 list, gotta start with Gruul. This is a deck that just has consistently performed certainly decks that it struggles against. Another deck I have failed to mention so far in this list is Lotus Field combo. You know, when a format is slow and grindy, a deck like Lotus Field tends to excel very well. Gruul is kind of Rakdos akin, and then it's a good stuff deck trying to win mid-range battles. It's okay against creature decks, although something like mono white can kind of go underneath of it a little bit, along with Brave the Elements. But you know, you have powerful tools: 1-drop accelerator into 3-drop into 4-drop. A Crow in War helps to swing the mono green matchup to at least be respectable, and this deck really was designed to be the Rakdos killer. While it has failed to extinguish Rakdos from the format, it's certainly made a dent in its presence, as well as some of the other changes other decks have made. Rakdos is still probably the de facto best and most played deck in the format, but maybe not as dominant as it once was, and the calls for banning seemed a little bit premature these days. Number 2, it's the Tron of the format. That's mono green. The deck does its thing. It accelerates, it plays 3-drops, it plays Karns, it plays Cavaliers, it plays Storms of the Festivals. It uses its Karn Wishboard, it uses an absurd amount of mana, tries to overpower you as quickly as possible. If it gets disrupted, it can struggle, but you know, you can't hold it down forever. You have to back your pressure with disruption, or your disruption with pressure. What more can you say about the deck? It is one of the hallmarks of the format. It's been one of the decks that has been basically powerful in the format since day one. Really only kind of weak during combo winter, you know, when Heliod Ballista, you know, Dimir Inverter, and and Underworld Breach. Lotus Field were kind of dominating the format. Did this deck really struggle? It's existed ever since people have come back and forth, since Pestilent Cauldron was rediscovered. And, you know, outside of a deck like Winota, this has been probably one of the top 1 or 2 decks in the format for the last year plus, since we've started doing these top 5 deck lists. So, not much has changed in that regard. That said, there are new players in the format. There is a lot of disruption in the format for mono green. So, remains to be seen how powerful the deck will be moving forward, but still remains number 2 this month. And number 1, Rakdos Midrange. Takes a lickin' and keeps on ticking. This is a deck that packs the best disruption and pressure in the format that can possibly be managed. You have Thoughtseize and Fatal Push, the 1-2 combo that has made every deck from mono black aggro to Rakdos Midrange to Dimir Inverter, broken as heck. These are backed up by just the best value cards in the format for their respective mana costs. Certainly there are decks that can go over the top of it, things like Enigmatic Incarnation, things like the new Bring to Light Omanth deck, the mono green deck. There are decks that can go under it. Actually, no, I'm just kidding there. This deck does a pretty good job of dealing with decks that try to go under it. So this is kind of the bridge between the aggro decks and the mid-range decks of the format. It is a mid-range deck by default, but has a pretty good matchup into the control and aggro decks in the format. Struggles against the go-over-the-top mid-range decks. That said, you do have plans for those matchups. It's Rakdos. What more do you want me to say? It's been the number 1 deck for the last several months. So whether that be challenged by creativity moving forward remains to be seen. But for now, Rakdos is the king of the format.